So tell me about this coffee situation. What are you doing with that? You're quitting coffee.
So just temporarily, I feel like during the year, I like to take breaks with stimulants. So right now I'm actually dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, alcohol-free, and extra. I think that's everything. Yeah. Alcohol-free. I think that's all of it.
I feel like that's what George said. Well, I don't think he's doing it anymore, but he said there was like periods of his life where he was vegan,
crazy,
everything. Yeah. So what do you eat? That's always my next question. Yeah, what do you actually eat?
So right now it's just basically meat, fish, meat, rice, sweet potatoes, and like any type of normal carb that's not bread, and vegetables and fruit. But when we've been going out on the weekends, I've been dabbling on the alcohol and carbs.
Well, you're traveling.
I know.
Yeah.
But we've been traveling for 4 months.
Have you, okay. So have you really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I moved to Monaco.
You've been home a few times though, yeah?
Once, and I got rid of my place in Scottsdale.
Okay.
That's where I was living. I went back for the States because I had a public speaking event. So I was speaking.
Yeah. So excited to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I was doing back in the States. But then we came right back to Europe.
So just traveling.
Yep.
That's fun. Have you heard of the carnivore diet? I'm seeing this like.
I haven't heard it specifically, but I can imagine what it is.
Yeah. You just eat meat.
Yeah.
Like, do you follow Jordan Peterson at all? He's like, okay. You know who he is? No?
No.
Okay. He's this guy and he does the carnivore diet and that's all I know. But it just seems like a wild.
Is he the one that does the raw meat?
No. That's the Liver King. Yeah. And he got busted for steroids.
Of course. That was kind of obvious.
No shit.
I feel like everyone was like, no way. I was like, really?
Come on. Have you seen this guy? It's like, that's not a human. You don't see anyone in like a village or a hunter-gatherer tribe who looks like that. It doesn't exist because that's just not
normal.
It's not normal. Yeah.
But yeah. I think I've struggled with autoimmune, like being on the cusp of it for so long. My mom has like 6 different autoimmune diseases.
Okay.
I've always been super health conscious. And whenever I feel like I'm getting flare ups, I'm like, we'll just cut it out for like a month, reset, and then we'll go back to balance. Because I could never do it for her life.
My sister has Hashimoto's, I think.
Yeah, that's the one I'm like.
Is that the one that I don't even really know what that is?
So it's your thyroid.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's just, and then it screws with all your hormones. It makes you gain weight or lose weight uncontrollably. And it's just like you're exhausted all the time. So it's better to
so you just cut out like gluten, sugar,
refined sugar, alcohol, and caffeine.
Can you have that raw sugar they have, like sugar in the raw stuff?
Yeah, not sugar in the raw, but like there's different, like dates are really good for sweeteners.
Dates are so good.
So good.
And they're basically dessert.
Out their carbs yesterday. George was like, they're like 6 grams of carb in one date or something like that. And I was like, what?
That's significant.
I know. I was like, I've been eating like 10 a day.
Yeah, you're like,
no wonder. Are you kidding me?
No wonder I'm not losing weight. Like, what is going on?
I was like, babe, you're just watching me eat these? He's like, I thought you knew. I was like, why would I know that this fruit is pure carb?
He's like, I thought you had given up. Just eating these dates all the time.
Also, coconut sugar. It's anything that doesn't really spike your glycemic index.
Okay. Which obviously like processed sugar is great at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did go off coffee for probably 60 days.
That's good.
Yeah, I did. Have you seen that mud stuff?
Yes, I've had that before.
Okay, so I did that because I still needed like a drink in the morning. I needed something. It's just a habit at this point. I started when I was like
ritual.
Yeah, it's a ritual. I started was like 15 on paper route, and my dad was like, "Here, you drink this. Give me a big like 16-ounce black coffee." I was like, "Okay," and I haven't stopped since. But I did stop then, and I it's always hard. I always feel like, is it placebo? Are the effects real? But I definitely slept better.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Coffee has never done well with me.
Okay,
because I have ADHD. I veer towards like anxiety. So it's like I always do better with green tea or things like that. But I enjoy the ritual of coffee better. So I have to find a balance between the two.
I veer toward anxiety too. Yeah. I feel like you're one or the other as a human, right?
For sure.
Do you agree? Like
100%.
I feel like everyone I know is either veers toward depression
or anxiety.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Which one's George, do you think?
I wouldn't know because since I've been dating him, he's so on par. But I would have to say like depression.
On point. Yeah. He's more. If he wasn't on point, it would be
depression.
And you see less of it the healthier a person is, right? Yes. Like you don't notice it.
He's so good about his regimen. It's so annoying. I'm like, babe.
Yes.
I'm like, you judge me. He's like, I'm not judging you. I'm like, I'm judging me because you're so perfect all the time. And it's like so annoying, like to live with someone who's just man. I just shouldn't eat that, so I won't. I'm like.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna.
He's just
eat
barely
that
drinks
cake
alcohol.
I can smell literally 2 inches in front of my face.
His level of discipline is I've never experienced anyone with discipline.
Really,
ever. And all my friends and my family
too. Like,
you should have seen him when I first started because he was doing Kokoro, and I was like,
"What's Kokoro?"
He didn't talk about Kokoro on.
No, and I know because I looked at his page after we were done with the podcast. I was like, "There's 10 things I forgot to talk."
No, he's done some really crazy things. So he trained to do Kokoro, which is I'm going to get this wrong, but it's like a 57-hour crucible where you train with the Navy SEALs straight.
Oh, I saw that picture of him like lifting the log or whatever in a wet. Yes. Yeah.
And he actually broke a record at it. And he was like, it was so fun. I would do it again. I was like, you're crazy.
Who am I with?
And he was training for like 4 hours a day. So luckily, we were long distance at the time because I don't think we would have made it. Like he wasn't. I was like, it was the beginning of our relationship, and I'm like, I was drinking. I mean,
you were eating dates.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I was, having a normal lifestyle, and he was just like this,
just hardcore,
just going for it, like military man. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you spoke. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what it was about, but I'm excited to learn about it. I also want to say that George told me you do network marketing. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to talk about that.
Yep.
Is there anything else that is like, I shouldn't miss while we're talking?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I'm really big in leadership. So network marketing is basically leadership. Even though everyone thinks it's sales, it's really just building out sales teams.
Okay.
So it's leadership. And so now I do some leadership consulting. So I've been consulting for some companies and things like that.
That's cool.
We're moving that route.
Okay. That probably pays better too.
No, network marketing pays really well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about network marketing. First of all, because my experience with network marketing is so I knew nothing about the term. And then I write for ClickFunnels. You know ClickFunnels?
Yep.
Okay. So I write for them and I had to do an article about network marketing.
Yep.
And so I looked it up and what I saw is essentially a different term for MLM. Mm-hmm. And that's and then I was like, okay, so I'm curious to actually understand what it is.
It's a very misunderstood industry.
Okay.
So it's very similar to the insurance industry. It's very similar to real estate, but I have a theory that because it's mostly women-based, people don't take it as seriously. Ooh. They don't respect it as much.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
That would not, It's
interesting because you see a guy get into real estate and they'll be like, I hustled really hard my first year and made no money. And they're like, well, keep at it. You see a woman get into network marketing and they're like, I hustled really hard my first year and only made a couple thousand. They're like, well, you're being taken advantage of. And women are easy to take advantage of, but men never.
Wow.
So it's definitely.
That's really insightful.
It's an interesting industry to be in because it actually makes the most millionaires out of any industry in the world for women. And
really,
it's an industry that's 80% women. So to think of an industry that's dominated by women, making passive residual income in the millions. Not everyone, of course. There's same as real estate. The people that make it. The people that don't.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it has this extremely bad rap. And I there's a lot of reasons why. And there's stuff that comes from within the industry that I'm trying to help remedy. I'm very passionate about the industry and the things that we get to get better at. But for the most part, it just intrigues me from a philosophical standpoint of why? Why is the insurance industry the exact same thing? The real estate industry, the loan officer industry, all of it is the same. Sell to your friends and family, build a network on your own, and then build a team so that you can have leverage.
But then you have one dominated by women and everybody's like, oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's 100%. Wild. So explain to me what it is and also how it's similar to those other industries because I'm just totally ignorant. So
in network marketing is basically the concept of I have a whole book that I'm actually coming out with. It's called The 4 Careers of Network Marketing.
Okay.
So the big thing here is that people confuse network marketing because there's too many aspects within it. And it's very similar. Let me just break it down with real estate, right?
Great.
So in real estate, you're either going to come in or you're definitely going to come in. You're going to start as I'm going to sell real estate. You're going to spend your first year hopefully getting mentored by somebody. And you're going to be going going out, trying to create a book of business. You're going to start with your friends and family and hope that if they're buying a house, they're going to go through you. And then you're going to try and build your reputation in the area so that people think of you as a reputable person to come to. But eventually, if you choose to, real estate's always going to stay. If you're in the sales, it's just linear. Like you're selling it, you make a big fat commission, and then you move on and you have to sell another house. It's very linear.
Okay.
If you want to have scalability in the real estate market, you're going to start a real estate team. And so you're going to bring on people on your team. You're going to offer them training, assets, leads, so that they can then go sell, and you're going to get a commission off of what your team sells. Then you can go as big as the brokerage, who has a lot of teams underneath them, and so forth, right? Network marketing is very similar, but we don't break it down that way. So everyone just thinks we sell a product.
Okay.
So we do sell a product. And I would say 80% of the field is selling a product, right? Okay. They're coming and they're partnering with their company, whether it's a product that's beauty products or it's wellness products. 50% of the industry is beauty, 50% is wellness. And then every once in a while we get like an offshoot, but mostly
it's a big industry. Yeah.
It's a big industry, multi-billions.
Yeah.
Like bigger than most like sports.
So just so I make sure I understand, this is like it's the same network marketing. That's what we see with like, I think Lululemon. No. Or LuLaRoe. Yeah. No, it's Lulu. Sorry. Yep. I don't know. Again,
no
nothing.
Worries.
LuLaRoe. What's the kitchen one? The one with the pots and pans.
Yes. I know what you're talking about, but I forget the name of it.
Me too. We have stuff from them too.
Pampered Chef.
But Pampered Chef, thank you. But that's what we're talking about, right?
For sure. And I love that you pointed out those ones because they break the model. So one of the quintessential parts of network marketing is that you need to choose a product as a company that is consumable. So people order it over and over and over again. Because the concept of network marketing is based on if I can create a customer base that buys every single month or quarterly or over and over again, my face wash, my shampoo, my protein shakes, like whatever it is, then I can create a residualized business because the company will pay me every single time that customer reorders. That's like really what network marketing is based on. Is that where the distinction between MLM and network marketing comes in? Like that, like Pampered Chef is MLM? No. So the difference comes into the compensation structure. So MLM and network marketing all fall under direct sales. So direct sales is an industry that's basically cut out the middleman, take product to consumer. That's really the entire industry. It's a massive industry. You have like Cutco underneath it where the knives. Yeah, Cutco, Back in the day, I did that. I've been pitched on that. I've done it at 18. It was a great starter experience, but I wouldn't recommend people stay in it. The dude cut a penny in half, I think, was one of the tricks they did. Yeah. Done that a million times. You're like, I can do it right now. I can do it. Let's go. But with the difference between MLM and network marketing, so both fall under team-based. You're both building out a team. So where a lot of people confuse and get really confused in the industry is everyone thinks you're just peddling a product. If you come into the industry to sell a product, you will make some great side hustle money, but you're never going to make the dream income. So like where I think there's a big misconception in the industry is a lot of people get roped up into the industry because they're like, oh my God, I'm going to make 6 figures. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do all of this by selling a product. That's never going to happen. Because that's like saying I'm going to have $10 million worth of real estate portfolio by selling homes. Not the same thing. Which is the real estate agent thing, right? Exactly. I could be a real estate agent and make great money. Yeah. But it's a job. It's a day job. It's a day job. I'm not going to have a portfolio of real estate because I sold homes. So there's a misconception, and that's one of the things I'm working to clear up in the industry. So you can come in and you can sell great amount of money, like product, and get some great side hustle income. A big difference also with our industry compared to, again, real estate loan officers or those, it's a smaller price point. So we are not selling $100,000 in commission, right? We're selling a protein shake for $40. We're selling face wash. So it's more those consumable goods. The reason why it is so big in the female space is because women take care of 90% of the home purchases, right? So we really dictate the market when it comes to anything that's being bought in the household. When it comes to shampoo, conditioner, things that are in the cabinets, that's not 90% is coming from a woman. They're the purchasing person. So that's why the industry is dominated by them. Oh, that makes sense because they're the ones buying that stuff for the most part, right? They're the ones who go out and buy it, and they make usually it's the wife who's deciding between what paper towels to have in the household. You know what I mean? And usually. I think now at this point, there's just
this stereotype. So I feel like even if you made one for guys, there would be resistance because there's the stereotype of like, oh.
For sure. Although I will tell you this, men kill it.
Are they good at it?
Or multi-level marketing. I would say that let's put it this way. When Direct Selling had their 100th annual year like review magazine, the top 10 in the industry were all men, which was really hard to see. As a woman. It was upsetting. It's upsetting. But the reason for it is women are the nurturers, and we will spend much more time on really developing the customer base, where the men are like, I see the model. It's genius. Let's go.
Yeah, I want to make money. Yeah.
Make money.
Okay.
So that being said, our basis is not about, okay, I need to go sell one house so I can make $50K in commission. I get to sell thousands of dollars worth of product. I have to create a network. So the basis of network marketing is that, and you're familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure. Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah. So left-hand side of the quadrant, linear, right? Whether you're self-employed or you're an employee, you're exchanging time for money. Right-hand side of the quadrant, big business, based on systems and scalability.
Okay.
So what network marketing allows is the average everyday person to build a big business based on systems and scalability if you are building a team.
Okay.
So that's where the whole recruiting, where people get like, oh my God, you're just pitching and recruiting. Yes, we do recruit people to come and build a business with us and partner. The concept is I'd rather make 1% of what 100 people on a team can do together than 100% of what I can do alone. So just to give you an example with my numbers, I started in network marketing at 22.
How old are you now?
30.
30.
Oh, I almost said 29. I just turned 30. I was like, oh
when
my
goodness.
When
did you turn 30?
June. End of June.
Okay. My wife and I both turned 30 this year.
Yeah.
So she's turning 30 September 13th. So just like in a week.
It's oh my goodness.
And then I turned 30
exciting.
in December.
Yeah, it's a wild time turning 30.
Oh yeah, crazy. Yep.
So I started 22. So it's been about 8 years now. I personally have probably brought on around 300 customers in 8 years.
Okay. So that's people buying the product.
Buying the product or coming to join for the business.
Okay.
My beginning of my time with the industry, I started mostly on the customer side. Because just like in real estate, you're not going to train a sales team before you figure out how to do the sales.
Yeah, you got to understand.
You got to understand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now it's mostly I'm sponsoring people who are like, hey, like you've had success in the industry. I want to know what you're doing. Can you sponsor me and train me? So that's usually who I'm recruiting and talking to at this point. Okay. My numbers look like 167,000 customers.
Wow.
Yeah.
106 across your team. So that's like everyone. How many people are on your team?
So from a like I think 600.
600.
Yeah.
Bringing in 167,000 customers.
And it goes up probably about
do you know like
1,000 a month.
I don't know how the money breaks down on that. How does the money break down?
Yeah. So it's different for every company. So this is where MLM and network marketing differ. So in MLM, it's literally based on levels. So the MLM is basically just an antiquated model that this industry has been around for 100 years. Honestly, I try to tell people all the time, I'm like, network marketing, multi-level marketing, whichever one you want to call it, is the grandfather of the influencer industry, of the drop shipping industry, of the coaching industry. We basically said 100 years ago, let's cut out the middleman. Let's sell directly to the consumer. We're going to do it by getting people who have influence over their friends and family. And we think that they're going to buy based on the fact that their friends and family said they should.
Instead of going and putting the product in Walmart or Costco, right?
Exactly. Okay. 100%. Or selling it or using Jennifer Aniston on an ad. We're going to say, hey, I think people are the best influencers and they're going to influence their friends and family.
And we're just going to pay them.
We're going to pay them a commission. And what we're going to do is we're going to offer them lifetime commission. So instead of, you're going to make X amount, like 50% in Cutco, when I was back in the day, when I was like 17, I earned my way up to making like 40% commission. So in different companies, depending on what company you're with, you're going to make more like 5%, 6% commission. Okay. But it's off of the network. And this is where I go back to, if you're just selling the product, making 5-6% commission, there's bonuses and things like that. And I won't get into those structures, but ultimately the like, we call it the back end, like the residualized side of it is usually around somewhere between, depending on your company, 4 to 8%.
Okay.
But it's off of the entire network. So I'm making in my company 6% off of 167,000 customers that order whenever they decide to order throughout the year. Usually it's monthly.
Wow. So, okay. So like a lot of people who I've seen this happen literally hundreds of times with. My wife hasn't done much of it, but I've seen my mom do it at least 10 times. And then I've had other friends, most of them women, and they've still start with like Pampered Chef or this. And what happens inevitably is they do a party and they sell all their friends. And then everyone comes because it's like, oh, we got to support them. And then it's sort of like it always just kind of fizzles out after that.
100%.
What do you like? What's the mindset shift there? Is it just like you said, don't sell the product? That's what you're just focusing on the product versus building the team?
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely sell the product. The mindset shift is that our industry doesn't know, a lot of people don't even know how to have success because the industry is confused. To be completely honest.
Super confused.
It's confused. They think that we sell product to make money. We do sell product to make money. That is 100% what we do. But if somebody comes on board and is like, I want to make $100,000, I'm always just going to be the type of mentor that's like, great, then you're going to have to build out a team. But first, we're going to help you figure out how to sell the product really well, get an incredible customer base, build up your skill sets. And once you're making maybe, I don't know, $2,000 a month, we can help you then say, hey, like, let's go find some people who'd also like to make $2,000 a month and be like, I can do that. It's like, it's funny because it's like the coaching industry, right? Yeah. People go out, they learn a skill. They get really good at it and they're like, actually, I want to coach people to do this. And they're like, I'm going to coach you to do what I've been able to do. And then a lot of times those coaches go to the next level and they'll say, all right, well, I just figured out how to coach people. Now I bet I could coach people on how to coach people.
Right. That's so true. Coaches coaching coaches.
Coaches.
Marketers,
it's very similar. It's like you start out like, I'm going to learn how to sell the product. Then I'm going to be like, okay, if I'm making $2,000 a month, I could help other people make $2,000 a month. So now I'm leveraging myself. Maybe I have 10 people on my team that are all making $2,000 a month.
Right.
Well, guess what? Now I'm probably making $10,000, $15,000 a month because I just taught 10 people how to do that. And I'm getting paid.
And you're getting commission from that. Yeah. Wow.
And then it goes to the next level and the next level. Very similar. That's why I say we're the grandfathers of the coaching industry. I mean, we coach for free. I always say, I'm like, network marketing is the model in coaching, which is basically instead of you coming to me and saying, hey, I want to learn this. And I'm like, great, pay me $10,000. I'll teach you everything I know, then good luck. It's great. You're not going to pay me a dime. I'm going to coach you. And when you have success, I'm going to take a percentage of your success. So unless you have success, I don't get paid.
You don't make money. So
it's very ethical business.
When you're incentivized to help them because if they make money, you make money. Yeah.
Some of the best coaches in the world come out of the network marketing space because I've had so many coaches join my team and they don't like the feedback they get at all because they're like, wait, no one's actually doing anything. And I'm like, I hate to tell you this, but this is really harsh feedback that like you're probably not getting results when people leave because you're just getting the high of telling people information and then being like, oh my God, I love this person because they're on a pedestal. And then they don't go do anything.
That's so true. That's the coaching industry in a nutshell. Like, well, not all of it, but a lot of it is that's so true because people aren't executing on that information 100%. As much as they're just like, oh, I feel good. Thank you so much. And then they leave and nothing really changes long term.
Yep.
So what's like the degree of work you would say for someone who's like, I want to make $2,000 a month consistently as, like is that hard to do? Is that something that's pretty achievable for most people?
It really matters on their level of influence before joining. So I have people who will join and let's say they are just super influential in their network.
Like
and
Instagram and Facebook.
Like maybe they have a big Instagram or Facebook, or maybe they're just like popular. Like maybe they have a big friend group from high school and college. And when they join, they just have certain skill sets that they brought to the table. Right. And it's the same as any industry in the world. Like if you're coming to the table with predetermined skill sets, ability to sell, ability to have influence over people, ability to lead, like you're going to move faster. If I have people on the other hand that will come to the table and they're like, if I say boo, they jump, you know what I mean? But the network marketing industry is so beautiful because there is no barrier to entry. It doesn't cost you $5,000 to get started or $10,000 or the average business.
Yeah. You don't have to start a franchise.
Yeah. It's not like that. So you join for whatever the cost of your product is, you consume that product. There's literally no risk to joining a network marketing company. So we have a lot of like stories of people who go from nothing to everything. And then we coach them on money mindset. We coach them on, sales, marketing, all these things. Some people, they never take off with it Some people, they end up doing it, but those people are going to take a longer time. Like if they come to me and they're like, yeah, I have no friends. I live in my parents' basement. I'm like, great, I can support you, but you're going to have to get out, network. You're going to have to go do these things. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. And any business is harder if you're that person.
For sure.
Even if it's real estate, if you don't have the connections.
For sure. Right.
Way
Someone
harder.
who goes into real estate and they're like, yeah, my mom and dad are like really well connected and I can easily jump into this group. Like they're going to sell faster. Yeah. If you're like, yeah, I came from nothing and from nobody. And I like the best thing I could sell is like this piece of paper. Yeah. Like you're going to have a hard time making money your first year. It doesn't mean you can't though.
So you have a team of 600 people
around that. Yeah.
Generally, like, is that like people, is that layered? So it's not like all of those people are below you. It's like, you know, somebody's below you and then maybe that person has a team of like 10 people or something. Correct. And then maybe even some of them have teams, but overall like 600.
Yeah. And that's, I want to close that loop on multi-level marketing versus network marketing. So in multi-level marketing, it's based on level. So it's an antiquated compensation plan. It's what it was come up with 100 years. And basically it would be like, okay, I'm going to come on board and I'm going to start a sales organization with network marketing. So I go out and I get customers. I'm going to get paid off of my customer base. Mm-hmm. And then the person that enrolled me will get maybe 5, 10 to 8%, 10%, just depends on the company. Right. Okay. But then what happens is like, okay, I'm going to go enroll a team. So that's going to be level 1. And I'm going to maybe make, let's just say random numbers, 10% off of that. But then if they enroll a team, their sales I make 6% off of, and then their sales I make 4% off of, and then their sales I make 1% off of, and then it just cuts me off and I don't get paid on depth below that.
This is how it is currently for you, or is that's the other way?
That's the other way. Okay. That's multi-level marketing.
MLM.
MLM. This is where people get frustrated because one, you end up creating a lot of different franchises because if nobody supports one another. So that would be like, okay, I'm going to bring on 5 basically franchises, but they're team members, but I have to support each of these person in building out their own business. Right. And they're all 5 of those people don't support each other. They're all separate. None of their sales count towards each other.
They might even be competing.
They're basically competing because it's usually your 5 best friends.
That's right.
So now you all have the same network, right? And they're in competition, but they all make me money.
Okay.
But my sales, if I go sell a customer, does not go to any of them. Now they go and they get their next level. Well, what happens if the best salesperson is 5 levels deep and now I'm only making 2%? I'm not going to get into all of this because it's not a network marketing podcast, but there's a lot of really bad behavior that ends up coming out of this because it's incentivizing bad behavior. There's compression models that forcing people out so you can make people roll up. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I will say this. People have made a lot of money in multi-level marketing and I'm not against it. I just think that if you're going to start from scratch today, be more educated in what network marketing company you're choosing or MLM because you can choose which compensation plan. The end all business is the exact same, but you're choosing a compensation plan. And a lot of people don't get that when they get involved. They're like, oh, I'm choosing a product. You should never choose the company you're going to be on based on the product. You should love the product, but that would be like, I'm going to go into accounting, but I have to make sure that I love the software we're using. Like that doesn't even make sense. You would be choosing what company you're going with, who's going to pay you the best because it's a job at the end of the day.
Yep.
So with network marketing, depending on the company, mine's what's called a binary, meaning we build 2 teams, but everyone supports each other. So when it's called like a stacking system. So if I enroll 5 people, they're all on top of each other. Everything they do contributes to each other. Every customer they brought in contributes to them and everything I bring in contributes to them. So we're actually building out as a team. And then instead of cutting off based off of levels, we cut off based on volume. So basically when they reach a point where they're like, okay, like we physically can't pay out more to this, we're going to cut off your volume at the bottom, which makes it much more achievable for the average person.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And network marketing is always the recurring products?
It should be.
Should be. So that's the best. That's what you encourage people to look for?
So the problem with the Pampered Chef and the LuLaRoe, and LuLaRoe was a really unfortunate example because LuLaRoe was basically a woman who started a company and someone was like, hey, you should use a network marketing model. And they were like, oh, that sounds great, but had no idea about the industry. And this is very unfortunate because anyone can start a network marketing business.
Okay.
And then they could recruit people to be in that network marketing business. And this happens a lot. Network marketing companies are the same as a traditional company. 9 out of 10 fail in their first 10 years. So I see a lot of people, unfortunately, that will start with these small mom and pop network marketing companies and the owners don't even know what they're doing. Yeah. And then you build your legacy with this and then they end up getting shut down. So that's a whole nother issue within itself. But basically, because network marketing is based on the reoccurring model of if I can support people, it's based on creating leverage and systems. So I have a customer that I enrolled back in 2015. She still orders product every single month and I get paid a commission off of that.
Wow.
If you break that model by having Pampered Chef or LuLaRoe, what ends up happening is the only way to create reoccurring is on the team. So now by creating leverage, by bringing other people on, but then everyone just has to sell month end. But remember, you're not making 20, 30, 40% commission. You're making 6%. It just breaks down the model, and it's not, again, people make really good money doing it. I'm not against it. I just personally would not have chosen it.
It's not what you would go with.
And it's not what tends to have the most success in our industry. There's a reason why majority is in the residualized space, because that's the model.
Do you have like the top 3 businesses that if somebody's like, I want to do network marketing, that it's like, these ones are good?
No, because it's so new.
Personal?
No, there's just different reasons to get involved for different ones. So for instance, like if you were just going to look at like, what's the top 3? You Googled the map. It's going to come up with like Amway, Mary Kay, I think. Is up at the top.
It's a big one. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean necessarily those are like the best ones to go with, right? It just means they've been around the longest. So like any business, right? When you start a business, you're either going to go through vertical growth or you're going to go through horizontal growth. Vertical growth meaning my goal is to get more customers. Horizontal growth means my goal is to sell the customers I have more things.
Okay.
So, this is like a Tony Robbins equation.
For sure.
And so in network marketing, if you are a franchise partnering with a company, you would hope to be with them during their phase of, I want to get more customers. Because if you're in their phase of, I want to sell more things to the customers I already have. I mean, in a network marketing company, if they're doing, let's say 500 million in sales, and they already have a customer base of 600,000 customers, and they all order about $200 worth of product a month, but then you come out with a new product and the distributors all say, yeah, I'm going to buy this from the company instead of going and buying it from Stop and Shop because it's my business. They all add this new product on board. You could literally up your sales by 100 million without adding new customers to the basis. That's great for the company and for the established networks.
Yeah.
So if I right now, currently with my customer base, my company comes out with, let's say, dog food, I'd be like, dope. Now all of my customers are going to go buy that from our company instead of from other people. I'm going to expand my order basket and I'm going to make more money. But if you're brand new with my company, then you're like, that's awesome, but I don't have customers to expand on. So it's more nuanced with, it's like, okay, like the biggest companies don't necessarily make them the best companies. And it also, takes into consideration, there is something to be said about enjoying the product line. Like you should to sell the products.
If you don't want to, So what company do you do it with?
I do it with Isagenix.
Isagenix.
Yep.
What is that?
So Isagenix is a wellness company. Okay. So we started back in 2002. And it was mainly focused on weight loss back in the day because that was the heyday.
Everyone was just like lose weight. Yeah, everyone. Everyone was always on a diet.
But what I love about what I love about Isagenix is we're really focused on Eastern medicine. And so I was introduced to the company in 2012. Yeah, 2012. Okay. I would just gained the freshman 15 at college. Nice. And I was in a place where I wanted to lose weight. My mom had gotten involved with the company. Now my mom and dad have been in the network marketing industry since their 20s. So I was raised around the industry.
So you already knew I
actually convinced my high school principal to let me do an independent study in network marketing in high school because I wanted to review different compensation plans in different companies. I knew I wanted to do network marketing from the jump. That's crazy. I was like, what other way can a 22-year-old go on to make multiple 6 figures, if not 7 figures, residualize while traveling the world? I was like, that just makes sense. Like create wealth in your 20s.
Yeah.
For me, that made sense. And I love to talk. So I was like, I'll talk for a living.
Yep.
So that being said, I forget what the question was.
I forgot too, but I totally spaced it. What was my question? I was focused on
I said the reason I loved the company that I'm with is because I was looking to lose weight.
That's right.
I joined it. I was able to.
So it totally made sense to you.
Totally made sense to me. I was able to lose weight.
We both lose our train of thought. That's so funny because I always depend on them. I'm like, tell me what I was talking about. Because our brains are just like, yep.
So I had a great experience, but what it really sold me on, I was just a product user for 3 years. I was in college. I went to Babson College, which is the #1 school in the world for entrepreneurship. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Did you just get your degree in entrepreneurship?
Yep. So my concentration, because everyone gets their degree in entrepreneurship and business there because it's like such a small school.
Okay.
My concentration was economics and business analytics. Cool. And I knew I wanted to start my own business and I was very interested in being in the network marketing space. But up until that point in my life, most of the network marketing space was women in their 40s and 50s. Like it was definitely like like your mama's
and MLM. Grandma.
Yeah. Like, you know, come to their house and sell them something. And so I was so intrigued by the industry. I loved the way that it worked, but I was really struggling to see myself in it. Until I was with Isagenix, and they had a whole movement of young people that were traveling the world and doing this. And now the network marketing, multi-level marketing space is inundated with young people because we figured out influencer marketing, drop shipping, all these things that we wanted to be participant in. We could do it with a company.
It's so much easier now.
So much easier. So now Isagenix is much less of a weight loss company and more of a whole well-being company where we have everything from greens to vitamins to, you know, nootropics, which are my favorites. I should have taken one before this. I wouldn't have lost my train of thought.
Nootropics. That's
the nootropics.
Oh man. So many. Yeah.
You can order them to Portugal, and I ordered my package and it has not gotten in yet. And I'm like, oh my God.
And that's through Isagenix. You ordered them?
Yeah, we're available in 20 plus countries.
I want to ask you about that too. Do you, you notice, I mean, you like them. So you notice a difference. Better than caffeine, huh?
Way better than caffeine. Nootropics in general, I had never even known what nootropics were until Isagenix brought them to the company. And then I started taking the Isagenix nootropic. And
Do you know what's in them? Because it's like always got
nootropic is literally the name of the ingredient that's in it. Like I think that's what it's called, nootropic. Oh my God. Okay. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. Like it's not our brand name. Like people, I see advertisements for nootropics all the time.
Yeah.
But in ours, we have also paired with some green tea. But I just get so lasered focused. And I was the person growing up that was prescribed to Adderall, that had testing anxiety, that had to have like extended time on exams, that I actually, my freshman year of college was forced into doing a weekly therapist appointment in order to them to sign off on me getting extended time on exams, because the reason I needed extended time was based on my anxiety of taking. I would have testing anxiety. I would freak out when I would take an exam. I like flip it back and forth. People, my professors would be like, "You knew this information and still messed it up." And I was like, I'd be like panicked.
Wow.
So anyways.
Were you ever like diagnosed?
Yeah, I was diagnosed.
Okay.
My senior year of high school, I finally like advocated. And this was like back in the days where like, I remember my mom being like, no, like you don't have it. And I'm like, it's not a bad thing. Like, I just need to know what I have. But it was like back when the stigma was still there. I mean, like this is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This is 12 years ago, actually. There was so much stigma around it. She was so like she had done something wrong if I had ADHD.
If you had it, she's like, I shouldn't have drank that coffee while you were pregnant. Yeah.
I was like, it's not that big of a deal. I just need to know. And now I think it's one of the best things for me. I have such spurts
to just know and be aware of it. Right? And there is a positive side to it too, right? ADHD. Like and that's the thing, like there's pros and cons. It's not just a bad thing.
Yeah.
There's also benefits.
But for sure, the nootropics are one of those things where like I've been without them for a week because my packages, I like sent to the wrong address. It's been delayed. So I have to figure that out.
No.
But I like accidentally sent to the wrong place in Portugal. But I take that and I'm like focused. And I can't compare it to any other nootropic because I haven't taken anything not from Isagenix, but I will say that the one with Isagenix I've had.
How long does that last? Like you get
so it's interesting. It's a couple hours.
Okay.
It's very similar, I would say, to like it's a much more, I'm not allowed to say this so this is non-compliant Isagenix wise,
nobody's
but from
nootropics
standpoint, it's like a lesser version of Adderall. Like you're not going to have your heart pumping. Like I actually refused to take the Adderall because I was like, thought I was having panic attacks. I was like, I'd rather it take me 8 hours to study.
I've never done Adderall before. I've never had it.
Too much. I got prescribed to it.
Some people really like it.
They love it because and it's addicting. It's basically legal cocaine. Like it's literally like, I remember I would take it. I was in a test where like my professor was going over before the test. So I had gone for the review and I literally left because I was like, I need to go lay down. Like I'm having a panic attack. So it's a much more mild version of that. But what's really cool about the nootropics is that studies have come out that if you take them regularly, even if you stop taking them, it's actually improving your cognitive function. And so like, it's the cumulative effect helps as well.
Okay. I need to do that. I think that'd be good for me.
It's really, really
I just live my life on caffeine and then I try to sleep. I'm like,
and it has caffeine in it, but it's green tea caffeine versus
it's not nearly as much. Like I had a cappuccino before this, a couple shots, and then I had this. I'm like 3 shots in right now.
Oh my goodness, I could never.
Yeah, well, I get it. I'm in, and I told George this. I'm just like maintenance right now. Yeah, because I know if I stop, I have a headache coming that I've been putting off, and I don't want the headache. So I'm just
for sure, the detox.
I'm an addict. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so the speaking looked crazy to me. How many people was that?
Oh, this last event, I think it was 4,000.
So you've done that? Have you done this multiple times?
Yeah, I think my biggest was 6,000.
Wow. So, but when was this last one? It looked recent.
Yeah, it was in Miami was it in Miami? No, it was in Orlando.
Somewhere.
I'm like, I've been in so many different places in the last 4 months.
I get it.
I was in Miami, but no, it was in Orlando. This last one was for an Isagenix event. So it was our convention. I was the keynote closer, which was very exciting.
How long were you up there?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay. So it was really, really fun.
Is that like the long? Is that about usually what you do is 30 minutes?
I've done some 45-minute segments. Okay. I prefer a 30-minute segment unless you're going to do it. Do people like do you get paid? Not when to
go on stage.
Not for Isagenix events, but when I do them outside of Isagenix events, yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm so curious.
Yeah, it's a great space. But I will say, like, if I am speaking for like an Isagenix event, they'll pay for my hotel room, they'll fly me out.
Oh, they better.
Like, they do all of that stuff.
So they'll pay for your travel.
But I would have been at the event anyways. Like, it's my business.
I'm just gonna get up there, you know what I mean? And then I'm sure you get like gain followers. And
100%.
There's benefits to it.
Yeah, there's a ton of benefits, and it's I've known I've wanted to be a speaker since I was about 18. I fell in love with it. Actually probably about 22. I think I liked it at 18, but like 22, I had my first kind of taste of it, and I knew I was never going to get off. The way that I explain it is like Kanye West. This is going to be funny.
God.
Kanye West.
Here we go.
I know, right?
Yep.
He, in his documentary, I don't know if you saw it on Netflix. It's really, really good.
Oh, is it recent?
It's recent, but the documentary is based on when he was much younger. So it's not on his crazy days.
Okay.
So
yeah, he's kind of crazy.
He's crazy now.
He's crazy.
But this was like the filming was done when he was like young.
Okay.
And one of the things he says, he's like, I'm going to butcher this, but it was something along the lines of like, I don't do it for the money. I do it because it's the way I get closest to God.
Okay.
And that is genuinely how I feel. Like I can't explain it, but it's like when I'm on stage, it's like the tap and the source just opens, and I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, but I trust that it's going to come from a higher like place that it's going to come through. And you know, I get a lot of people who come to me, like, so for instance, I'm the only person that spoke at that convention who had no speaker notes and nothing in front of them on their like whatever it's called in front of them.
Because I saw the picture. There were like the screens that you see on the TED Talk. They have those, I think.
Yeah. So typically,
but you didn't have anything up there.
No. So most speakers will have either a running script or where like they're just reading it off, or at least bullet.
Yeah.
And I can't do that, because if I prepare ahead of time, then it's coming from me. And so what I'll do is I'll have a general idea what I want to say. Now, mind you, this is a terrifying experience at the same time, because you're about to get on stage between 4,000 to 6,000 people and you don't know what you're going to say. But it's also the most exhilarating experience, because I believe that public speaking is the number one fear in the world, right? So it's literally the number one fear, more than death.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld has a bit about this.
Yes,
he said, it's hilarious. But it's so true.
What I believe it is, it's not a fear of public speaking. It's a fear of trusting yourself, because there's this overwhelming, what if I say something I shouldn't say? What if I don't remember what to say?
Yeah.
What if I pee myself? Like, you know what I mean? Like what if I do the craziest stuff?
Yeah.
But it's like you create such a level of trust with yourself. And I mean, of course you want to practice. You want to be like, when I first started, I wasn't just going up with nothing.
Yeah. You're not just like, let's see what happens.
Yeah. But I got to the point where I'm like, if I know what my goal is and I know what I generally want to talk about, and I have an outline in my head, and then I let the flow take over, that's when the magic happens, because truly speaking is just an energetic exchange. At the end of the day, I've seen so many public speakers, I cannot remember what anyone told me. Really, I really don't.
No,
but I know the feeling I got.
That they left you with,
And there's speakers where they could have said the most powerful thing ever, but you didn't get the feeling. And that's because it was too rehearsed, and it was coming from
It wasn't this moment, this vibe, this experience. Yeah, so I can totally relate to you, because I actually did full-time ministry for like 6 years. Yeah, so I love that. Yeah, I was, I'm not religious anymore, but I was deeply religious growing up, and then I went into full-time ministry. My wife and I married at 19, and I was in full-time ministry for like 6 years. Wow. 5 or 6 years. And I preached like over 50 sermons and stuff. And I was always in love with that I know I totally totally understand that experience. It's a high.
It is.
Like it is euphoric. It's euphoric when you're up there and you feel that you're riding this flow, and you don't really know what's happening, but it feels so good.
Yes.
But at the same time, I have such a love-hate relationship with it, because it is so freaking like anxiety inducing beforehand. When you're up there, I feel like it just, it's gone. Maybe 5-10 seconds, and then you're flowing. And it's like, but man, that 30 minutes beforehand, I hate that. I'm like, I wish you'd just let me, even when I do, like, I spoke at my friend's wedding, I was the best man, and they had everyone else speak before me. And I was like, just let me up so I can just get past that, you know?
Yeah. No, it's so funny that that's your background, because I've always said, I was like, I am a very spiritual person, not so much religious person, but I've always said, I was like, if I had another career path, it would be somewhere around like preaching. Like, I was like, that's kind of where it's preaching, but not in like a preachy way, but like it's through going up. When I see preachers or ministers speak on stage, it's really like they have a message, and then they flow with that message. And and what I love about that realm is that no one comes and says, well, I want to learn about sales and marketing today, or I have this specific, like, keynotes are so hard for me, especially when I'm pitching myself to other companies, because they're like, well, what's your keynote? And I'm like, I don't know, what's your audience? I'm like, I can't even tell you what my keynote is going to be, because I will come in and I will be in the room and I will sit there and I will energetic exchange. I'm like, okay, now I know what my keynote is. But if I try to tell you what my keynote is 3 months ahead of time, it's probably not going to land for your audience.
Right. Wow. That's so interesting. And I saw you had a video of you kind of, it looked like you had headphones in before you went on stage.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like pacing, and you know, it looked like you were working through those pre-jitters and everything.
Yes, that was an intense
Was that,
moment.
Was that
that was definitely really nerve-wracking, because in this specific, being a keynote closer, specifically closing an event, is like the strongest position you can get put in, right? The closing position. That's going to usually be the highest paid if you're for a paid position. If it's paid, usually opener or closer
are the bigger ones. Because that's what people remember, beginning and end.
Yeah, and it's, you're leaving the event. So to be asked to do that spot was huge, and it's something that I had wanted for years.
Did you like reach out and ask, or did they just hit you up?
They came to me, which was awesome. And I knew I was on the docket for it because I was the #1 global leader of the year that year. So it typically aligns with production as well.
That makes sense, of course.
So I was like, I knew I was going to be asked to speak, but to be asked to speak to the closer was huge.
4,000 people, that's wild.
Yeah, and so when you have such a big position, they really want you to practice ahead of time. So like 3 months out, they asked for like my outline and my like,
because they don't want you to screw it up.
No,
for sure. That totally makes sense.
Then it's like, then I did a run through on Zoom. Then I did a run through in person, and all of that messed up my flow, because I was like, now I have this idea of what I told them I'm going to say, but it's not landing for what I now know I need to say. And so I remember the morning of and I get this weird thing where I was getting my hair and makeup done, and I can't finish a sentence when I get nervous. Like when I'm specifically for speaking on stage. So people,
because your mind's just like,
it's just freaking
10,000 RPMs. Yeah. It's
freaking out.
Yep.
So they'll be like, okay, like George was like, practice with me, do a practice, with me. And I'm like, okay, so. And it was just nothing. Like nothing will come out, and it just and then people start panicking too, because they're like, is she going to do this?
Are you going to be able to talk?
And so now I'm getting, and it's like. It was really funny because I got my timing messed up. So I start freaking out because I thought I was going on stage in 30 minutes. So I'm backstage and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say yet. And usually I'm at peace with knowing that this is my message and this is what I'm going to do. But because I was so torn between what they wanted me, not what they wanted, what I told them I was going to do.
Yeah, just it wasn't your process you were used to.
Versus what I usually do, which is just let it come to me. I was probably the most nervous I've ever been. Plus just the pressure of that specific segment I had put on a pedestal since I was 22 of oh my God, that's the segment I want to do one day.
The
closing at our convention.
So it was also more pressure.
It was more pressure for sure.
Yeah. How'd it go?
It went really, really well.
Amazing.
Really funny though. So we had T-shirt launchers that they had used earlier in the day, to be free stuff.
Yeah,
throw it out. And one of them went off when I was on stage, but I didn't know what it was.
Beginning, end, middle? Middle. Okay.
So I'm in the middle of speaking.
Somebody bring a gun.
And it literally sounded like it. It was the whole audience just goes because it's just pooh, and then it's just for a long period of time. And I immediately, I just kind of do a full spin on stage because I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And this is where ADHD comes in handy. I swear to goodness that people with ADHD are meant to be public speakers, because you know that ADHD thing where I can talk and think at the same time, where you could be talking and thinking it's almost like you have the slide deck in the back of your head of what's coming next while you're talking. So I'm still talking while I'm registered. So I did not even stop my speech as I'm registering that this is going off backstage.
Yeah.
I made one little comment and I was being is there a rocket ship going off backstage?
Yeah. What was
that? Other than that, I just kept talking.
Just kept going.
So it went really well. I also have spoken enough times where I've had I was speaking at an event one time where they were supposed to have music that rose and fell with me because I was doing more of a motivational piece, and they just kept going off and on at the wrong times, and I just had to talk through the entire thing. So the more you speak, the better it gets because you know how to handle things on stage.
I think too, once you're up there, and if you're someone who does we're saying you get in that flow. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really phase you as much. The middle stuff, that's so much easier if you I've when I have had notes, I've dropped them in all the cars, and I'm I'm all right, well, but once you're in the flow, it's okay.
Yeah. 100%.
But it's that pre-jitters that just murders
that
me.
Kills you.
Yeah.
I will say being on a stage as big as that one was, because, and I mean physically, not even the amount, I've actually
just
had
the amount of space there is.
Space that there was. Yeah. And I remember when most of the times when I go onto a stage, someone's welcoming me on or welcoming me off. But because I was the closer, it was an empty stage. I'm walking to myself. Okay. And so I remember during preparation, they were like, okay, go. And I was like, there's no one out there. And they're like, no, there's not going to be someone out there to because usually someone introduces
says,
you and you come to it and you pass out. And that really threw me out. I'm like, oh my God, it's just me on the stage. Exactly. Yeah. And so and then it was also how much do you pace? Because to get to one side to the other,
yeah,
it's a lot.
Walking a mile.
And you just start as I'm speaking, you're just so aware. I'm like, wow, I have a lot of light on me and there's a lot of space. And it almost feels like you're the old school days of when TV was filmed live. Yeah. It's everyone's just
staring at you.
You
have a lapel mic? Is that, or what was
mic'd up twice actually because I had my videographers mic'd plus I didn't think it through. And so the dress that I was wearing didn't have anywhere to clip it on. So they actually had to create a harness underneath my dress. Oh my God. And so they're it was the funniest thing. I tried to always video my mic up and I was like, well, we can't use that because they basically had to strip me before putting on this thing and then mic me up.
Good Lord.
No, it was really one of those. That was because it was the biggest stage, not the most amount of people, but the biggest actual stage that I was on. Okay. And that's when you start to feel like you were a spectacle. You're not just speaking, you're a performance.
Yeah. And was it I've done it on probably not a stage, definitely not a stage that big, but I've done it on some stages. And did they have the lights in your face? Oh yeah. Could you even see the people?
You can see the first row barely.
And then it was, and then it's pretty much you're speaking into the white void. You're
100%, which I appreciate actually, because when I like to see some people's reactions, but if I see everybody, I remember at one time they turned the lights up because I said something and they're like, oh, let's show her the whole audience. And I was like,
yeah, you can turn that off.
You can turn that off right now. And I literally go, wow, that's a lot of people. I got to say, I was there's a lot of you.
You said that? Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. I like to joke with and make humor too.
Because I think have fun.
It humanizes you, which is you want them to feel like they can be you. That's the whole point of being a speaker. The speaker is never supposed to be there to be look at how cool I am and how amazing I am. Yeah. That's not going to get the point across. The point is I am just like you. Yep. You could be here too if you want to.
Yeah. That's amazing. So what was this speech? What'd you do it about? I mean, network marketing, of course, but
no. So actually because I was a closer, I got to do more of a motivational, which is really cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Cause you want to leave people on a good
note. Yeah.
How long was the event total? How many days?
2 days.
2 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 days. So I did a keynote that I call, I Am the Momentum. So it is all about taking personal accountability and personal responsibility in your own life. And then also really understanding that momentum. And this is, I was speaking to network marketing, but this is for any industry.
For sure.
Comes from you, and it comes from creating a massive amount of energy and push and almost honestly creating a false reality in your mind of what is going to happen with certainty before it becomes real, because no one's joining a movement of, well, it might happen.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So, even in my business days, I had to get clear, I will have a team of 160,000 customers. You want to join me, I will do this. And then you have to hold that for not 3 weeks, not 3 months, 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
And you have to create that. I mean, I even saw a podcast recently that was saying the average podcast doesn't pop off for 3 years. 3 years. And that's what people, don't understand. I was like, my business took off on year 5.
Yeah.
And
people don't see that. They just see you on stage and they're like, I can just do this tomorrow. And I have a newsletter called The Tonic, and we have about 17,000 subscribers, but we've been doing it for 2.5 years. In the first 6 months, we had 100 people on the list. Awesome. And we're emailing, and it's 100 people, you have 20 people reading each email or something. That's the process.
And people quit at that time.
And you have
that's where people
quit.
And that's a big part of, in network marketing, I'm taking people who have mostly never had entrepreneurial experience and teaching them entrepreneurship for the first time. Most of my job is teaching people how to handle delayed gratification, how to handle rejection, how to handle like sales, marketing, basic skills, right? Of an entrepreneur, and applying that, because network marketing is really baby entrepreneurship. It's the franchise model, but even less risk, because you're not, you don't have to pay to own the franchise.
Right.
So it's even more, it's all a franchise model is a risk to reward. I'm going to have less risk, so I'll get less reward. I'm sharing the reward with the company. In network marketing, you're going to have the least amount of possible risk in entrepreneurship, but you're also not going to get the full reward if you were a solo entrepreneur, but like owning the company on your own.
Yeah.
Right. But you can make millions residualized, right? You're just not going to own the company.
Yeah.
So teaching those skill sets of delayed gratification.
That's such a big one too.
Huge.
Like delayed gratification that's something that really fascinates me, because I think we're in like we just have none of it. We're so bad at it. Because life's so easy. You just
press a button and I can have food right now.
Literally,
we
order
I can
Uber
get
like all the time.
Uber Eats, my favorite thing in the world.
And you can be entertained instantly at any time of day. Pull just that thing out of your pocket. I sometimes I'm on the metro to take Andy to school, and I just will be like, okay, I'm not going to use my phone. I'm not going to, because you see, even if I'm not with Andy, sometimes I'll just say, because everyone on the metro is like everybody, which they're doing it because they're conditioned. It's easy. Like dopamine. It's just dopamine. We're addicted to the dopamine. And so I'll just be like, I'm just going to not have anything. I'm just going to sit there. And it's like, I think that's important sometimes.
It is, because if we don't decrease the amount of dopamine we're getting on a daily basis, things that used to cause us joy won't anymore. Like the simple beauties in life are no longer that. And there have been studies about how depression is going to take over and like all this with the next generation, because they're like, nothing in the real world will ever produce the feeling that these children are getting from their iPads at a very young age. And that's a whole nother topic.
And I have a kid, she's 6 now, and I would say over the last 2 years, she's really taken an interest in like screens and stuff. And it like parenting is just a totally different ball game, because you have to be like, how do I, because on one hand you can just give them screens, and now parenting's so easy. Yeah. So there's that temptation, and you have to like make sure you don't do that.
I saw actually a TikTok, huge research here. But it was saying how, they're weaponizing our attention span. And it makes sense, because if our attention span is super low, and if we cannot have delayed gratification because we have been trained to get dopamine hits, then less people will become entrepreneurs. Less people will become, do anything that causes long-term gratification, which is the best things in the world, which means that the government can own way more. You know what I mean? They can have all the businesses. They can take control of all that stuff. So, obviously that was a TikTok. That's not an article or anything. But just to like spark interest of like, are they weaponizing our, attention span? And what can I do to defend that? Because I literally work with mostly women, but some men too. Every single day, I'm like, you are trained to think you are failing if you do not get results immediately and linearly. And did I get paid? Did I get recognized? Did someone tell me I'm amazing? Did I get a like on my post? If I didn't get those 4 things, then I must be failing. But they're not actually failing. And so I literally just had this conversation with like 10 of my top leaders. And I was like, the hardest thing in the world for myself as a leader to watch my uprising leaders is knowing that in their head, they're failing, and on the outside looking at them, they're winning, and they don't realize it.
There's a disconnect between reality, like what is actually happening in reality, and what's in your head. And I've experienced this a lot. And one of the things I asked myself, in fact, I was just doing it last night because I was having sort of a difficult conversation with my business partner. And then you come off, and I was kind of like, and then I was asking myself like, okay, but what changed? Like, look at reality. Stop thinking about your head. What changed? Okay, there was a little change, but like ultimately very, very little change in reality. And you have to like look at it sort of from that other person's perspective. Be like, okay, if you're like somebody who doesn't care about this, you're just looking on, and you're like, what changed in reality? Then it's usually a lot smaller than it is in your head.
Yeah.
And absolutely. In your head, you're like blowing it up. So it's this huge, 100%. Huge thing.
That theory, if it doesn't matter in 5 years, don't give it more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But it's hard because
it is.
We live in a very
dopamine. And I think, to be honest, I think the problem is the business model. So social media is free, right? And I saw this great TED talk about this too, but because it's free, obviously the social media companies have to make money. So what do? They advertise. Well, they can only get paid from advertisers if you're using the platform. So they need you on the platform. So obviously they are going to do whatever it takes in terms of their everything they're testing is going to be testing to see what catches human attention and keeps it as long as possible. And so obviously you're just going to hijack the dopamine system essentially. So that you can get paid by advertisers. Whereas if you like now, and I don't know that this transition will ever happen or how it would, but if social media was paid, like if you said, okay, I'm going to pay $20 a month and there was no advertising, now all of a sudden you need to feel as the consumer that you are getting value out of it because you're the actual customer, not the advertisers, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a better business model. I just don't know that we'd ever.
It's tough though, right? Because everybody's used to free social media.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think that we'll ever make that transition, unfortunately.
I don't think so.
Unless it was mandated.
I think the world's going to like shrivel before global warming will get us. Something's going to get us. The world's
ending anyways. Like,
doesn't it feel like that?
It does.
Doesn't it? It feels like there's 100 different things that could.
The sad part about that is it creates this like hedonistic viewpoint of like, I can do whatever I want. So it's almost making it worse.
Yeah.
Like people have like, and I really feel this from like the Gen Z, just from being on TikTok. And I have a brother who's 8 years younger than me. So he's only, 23. Okay. And he and his group of friends and like and the studies that are starting to come out there that they're like, oh, well, Gen Z, there's a recent study, would rather spend money now, go on vacation, go do their things than save for the future. I'm like, well, no way. Like, of course they're going to want to do that because that like if you're telling them global warming is going to kill them like and we're all going to run out of social security and like the world's ending, why would they want to save? But now we're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy because everyone's almost resigned to it. It's like, this is just happening.
It's like we can't do it. It feels very powerless.
There's actually a great movie by Disney called Tomorrowland and I love it. And I actually used no, it's old.
Okay.
But George Clooney's in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a really great movie. I don't know how it didn't get more like popularity.
Never even heard of it.
They actually have a ride with it in like Disney, I'm pretty sure, in Epcot.
Oh.
But he has a speech in there. And I actually used that speech and I put it on stage one time when I was speaking because he talks exactly about this self-fulfilling prophecy. It was like, it's in your video games, it's in your movies of like the world's going to end. And now you've all just resigned to it and you're creating it. Like you are actually creating 100%. This world and you're all like accepting it. And so, and I feel like the difference between, and I literally just had this conversation again with my top leaders. I'm like, the difference between entrepreneurs and employers is really just creator consumer. You're either consuming money from the market. So you're getting a job and you're consuming the income, or you're creating the income.
Yeah.
And there's people like ourselves and like other entrepreneurs who are like, I have this insane desire to create and to make this world better. And when we get handed a problem, we're like, no, there has to be a solution for this. And then there's on the other side of the penny is consumer is like, okay, this is what's happening. I just want to take my money and protect myself and just like, enjoy my life. But unfortunately, I feel like it's interesting because entrepreneurship has been put on such a pedestal for how easy it's going to be for like Gen Z. And it's like, oh, it's just like this, the dopamine of entrepreneurship on TikTok now. It's like, oh, I made $10,000 when I sneezed today because I had this online business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it will be interesting to see how many of the next generation actually become entrepreneurs based on this turn of events.
I think it's hard to focus too, because you go through and you see, like you said, these people who I sneezed and I made $10,000 or I was scrolling yesterday and I just stopped because I was irritated at all these people making so much money from different ways. And I was just like, this is like, if you were someone who didn't have clarity about the thing you're doing, this would be so confusing. There's a million different things you could do. And I feel like really deciding is one of the places most people get caught.
I mean, I think it was about 4 years ago I had a talk on this, but it was talking about how our generation is not we do not have the problem of like there's your once in a lifetime opportunity, and if you miss it, it's over. Mm-hmm. We have the problem of there's so many opportunities you can't choose one.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
And it's scary, but I also think there's just so little discernment in what people say online and the manipulation of how they're making their money.
Yeah.
And I see it a lot, and especially so because network marketing has been around for 100 years, we are monitored by the FTC. So we are heavily regulated, and we cannot make income claims. So I could never go online and actually say what I'm making and how I make it, which is a disadvantage.
So you couldn't say right now? You're not allowed to say?
Technically, no. I'm not allowed to say. I'm not allowed to share in specific ways. Like I could technically disclose my income, but I could never say like I only work like 3 hours a week to create that income. And I could never say like
is it why?
So the FTC is protecting the consumer base from being scammed into joining something and building something that is not actually achievable. So they want to make sure that we always have income disclosures, that it's achievable, right? We're the only industry out there, though. Right?
Because if you do, if like George, he does mobile homes, and
he can say whatever he wants.
He told me all the numbers and everything. So, and of course, not. I'm sure people under him, not all of them have those same numbers.
100%. But it's just because these are newer industries that have not gotten regulated yet. So I understand the coin. So it's like on one hand, we do need to protect people because there are people out here that are like, buy my $7,000 course because you're going to make $50,000 a month in 6 months. And that is insane. And it's not okay to say. And so we have to regulate it. What stinks about the timeline that we're in right now is that my industry is regulated, but no other industry is regulated. So like we can't make our claims, but everybody else can, which puts us in a really I'm like, sometimes I watch other people. I'm like, man, I could show you how to make so much more money.
But I can't say that.
I can't say it and I can't market. But at the same time, there has to be regulation on what these people are saying, right? Because there are people that are coming out there and they are just so misrepresented. One, let's just remove the liars, right? Because of course there's going to be people that are lying, but even from the people that are factually sharing, you have to have discernment of what they're actually sharing. So for instance, I made $50,000 in 1 month. Great. How many launches a year do you have? Do you have one launch a year? Is that going to actually pay for the next 12 months? So did you really make $50,000 this year?
And what's your costs?
And what's your cost?
Is that revenue or is that
revenue?
profit?
Right.
Yeah.
How much did you pay in ad spend? And then on top of that, it's like, I know a lot of people in the coaching space who double count money where they're like, they sell people on packages. So they're going to be paid every single month, but then they count in the first month the $50,000 buy-in, but then they also
even
count
though that was for like a year or something.
Yeah, but then every single month they also count in, I made this much. So it's like, are you double counting your money? And then it just
jackasses. If you're doing that, you're outright lying.
But I think that people don't even realize they're lying. Because there's they're just people coming into the entrepreneurship space. There's no regulation. And so then you have people that are like, oh my God, everyone's making money so many different ways. And then it's like, okay, you can make a lot of money really quick too. Like for instance, in the network marketing space, if you are brand new to the space and you just sell a ton to your existing network, you probably will make more money in your first 3 months than the following 6 months because you're going to burn through your network.
That's right.
So it's like also understanding it's like, if you started something and you made a huge pump up in the beginning, does that sustain? So there's just so much lack of discernment of what people are saying online, and there's a lack of regulation. And I get very frustrated with the level of regulation we have because unfortunately, like there's a huge anti-MLM culture where people literally will call the FTC and like shut down people's accounts. I've seen people lose $50,000 a month incomes because someone hated them enough to call the FTC and like make claims. I've had women on my team who are school teachers and also have an income with us. And these anti-MLMers are calling their school trying to get her fired because she sells protein shakes and they don't like it.
Let her sell her fucking
I know. It's wild. So there's unfortunately a huge anti-culture for us.
And that's where regulation's dangerous. Like I'm a little more, I live in a more socialist country now than the US even, but I am, in my political opinions, I think that like if someone's going to sell a course for $7,000 to make $50K and they successfully sell it to some people, like then those people learned a lesson. Like that's, I agree. And like let people make their own mistakes, you know, and vet stuff as a consumer. Be smart. Smart as a consumer. You're only going to make those type of mistakes once.
I think unless someone is doing serious damage where they are scamming thousands of people, it's not necessary for them to step in. It needs to be
really case by case.
But unfortunately, the regulation is insane in our
industry. Did she get this teacher? Did she get
fired? No.
Okay, so she's okay.
God, she's good.
But they were trying.
But there are cases where people do end up getting. I've had women on our team who got fired from their jobs because they decided to have a side hustle with us. And like, it's just
wild.
It's wild because people are so entitled to their opinions that they think it's right. That's another thing that is happening in today's day and age, that we have this echo chamber of that you only see your opinion being shown back to you on TikTok. And so you're like really affirmed that you are the right one. Yeah. And you're not, and there's like a lack of, again, discernment. The smartest person in the room will walk into a room that they do not agree with their opinion and find a way to agree with their opinion. Because unless you can do that, you don't have an intelligence. Like, how can you understand the other person's perspective? And actually, could you win an argument for them and then make your opinion? But if you're not educated enough to have both sides, then you probably shouldn't have an opinion at all, because you're just in an echo chamber. And so these people that are anti-MLM in this culture, they are in this echo chamber. I actually found out on YouTube, some woman that I've never met in my entire life made a 2-hour-long YouTube video.
Oh, let's go.
Getting into all of my like pretending that they were like prospects, getting onto my calls, screen recording them, blasting them, mocking me, getting just taking all my stuff for 2 hours. And people are on there and they're like, oh my God, yeah. And they're making ridiculous claims.
Just basically criticizing you?
Criticizing me, saying how crazy I am. They're like, oh my goodness, Babson's not even the number one school. I know. That's what George said, my boyfriend. But I was like, I was hurt. I definitely got my feelings hurt.
I get that. But also, like, I've never had that happen. I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, damn.
You're so funny. George said the same thing. I think that's boy versus woman.
We're not in it either. Yeah. If we were in it, we might be like,
and they're picking apart your appearance. And they were saying, she doesn't even make what she says she's making. I'm like, that's because you're looking up, because you can look up Isagenix income, right? But I was like, I don't have my name as my, like, I have a different name on my, you know what I mean?
So they don't even necessarily know which one is you?
You can't find me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because it's under my business name. And it's and they're like, oh, Babson's not even the number one school. And it's crazy stuff, right? Because you can, and it is the number one school.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can't, people just say whatever they want to say on the internet, and then it creates this echo chamber of like everyone affirming each other as if it's true.
It's just like everybody's circled.
And then they get, it's wild. And then unfortunately you see people doing crazy stuff like stalking and, death threats.
Have you had any of that?
No, luckily I have not had any of that. But I've seen influencers and in the influencer space just get ripped to shreds because they think that it's because your life, and people will be like, well, her life's online, so it's okay. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, like that's like fundamentally no.
Oh, they're saying it's okay to be evil.
Yeah.
Because
they're like, she puts her life online, so I can make whatever comments I want, and I can do whatever I want. I'm like, no.
That's like saying this person's walking down the street on the same side as me, so I can punch him in the nuts. It's like,
literally.
What is that?
It's like, so what? I chose to show my life online. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't gotten down that road, but we are definitely moving into what will be a very interesting time to see what this next generation who was raised in social media.
Is it Gen? What is it now? Like, it's Gen. I think they
call it, I think even the below is like the iPad generation. Like, I think they call them like Gen I for iPad. Like,
Gen I. Oh, I don't
actually know that, but I've heard jokes about that. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Call them.
I think it is what they call them.
Is it?
I don't know. I might have just made that up.
That would be the way to. That's what we're gonna call them. iGen. That's what I'm calling them. iGen.
And what greatness will come out of it too, because like with so
pros and
much
cons.
access to information,
for sure,
there is the ability to make this world a very small place in a good way.
Yeah, and I think we see that happening. So that some of that with the access to entrepreneurship and like I was watching Elon Musk talk about how like you really can learn. Who like I don't know if I like him, but he was talking about how everything you want to learn, anything you want to learn about how to make a fucking spacecraft, like anything you want to learn, you can learn for free online.
Yeah.
You just need some discipline.
Which is going to change the education industry too.
Yeah, which I think will be good.
I think it'll be very good.
College in the US is crazy.
Insane. I mean, I graduated with, my school cost me $250,000, you know?
Do you still have debt or is it done?
I'm very fortunate that my parents were able to pay it.
Oh, they helped you out?
We were supposed to split it.
That's
and
a crazy
then
amount.
my parents paid such great money
so
with Isagenix. So
$250K, like you're done and there's like there's an account that says you owe $250K essentially. Or is like just like, did you have that at the end? Like that was the full amount?
Oh no, it was so my they were paying it off as we went.
As you went, yeah. But that was the total cost.
Yes,
that's great. And you did 4 years,
and that was with the scholarship. Yeah, I had the women's leadership scholarship. So I had
how much was that for?
Tuition.
Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, quarter?
Quarter tuition, yeah.
That paid a quarter of your tuition? Mm-hmm. Wow.
But it was like $70,000 a year.
And you did 4 years or whatever? Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah. That's way too expensive. It's criminal.
It's a scam.
It's a crime. It's totally, that's so much more a scam than network marketing.
I know. I'm like,
let's talk about education.
$240,000 so I can give you a piece of paper that may or may not get you a job.
Have you found that, would you say the degree or the education has been helpful for you?
So I think I'm in a very unique perspective that I would not take back my education because I was very discerning when I chose my school. So I literally, I was a weird 17-year-old. I picked the school because it was the number one ROI. I literally looked it up.
Really?
And I also picked it based on curriculum. Like I literally went through their product catalog, their like curriculum catalog and was like, what do I like?
Analytical. You're like,
I was so in love with schooling and I loved education, but I loved entrepreneurship. And both my parents are serial entrepreneurs. They were in network marketing. Oh, they were actually in multi-level marketing back in their 20s. That my dad then had, before that, he had an insurance company. After that, he had an insurance company. My mom had a skincare line and a makeup company. And so like I just grew up around
the
entrepreneurship. Like the conversations at my dinner table were around business since I was 3. And I knew I wanted entrepreneurship. Babson's the number one school in the world for entrepreneurship. It also was 30 minutes from where I grew up, which was a con. I did not want that. I did not like that. And it actually was where my ex-boyfriend went. And I actually tried to, I was like, do you think you could transfer? Because at the time we were dating, but I was like, I don't really want to follow my boyfriend to college. Yeah. That was like a big thing. But eventually at the end of the day, I was like, I can't deny that it was such a good degree.
This is the place to go. Yeah.
I was obsessed with leadership from a young age. I was obsessed with entrepreneurship for a young age. I got the leadership scholarship. Like it just made sense. But that was me. Like, I think that because I was clear on what I wanted, like you at Babson, you have to start your own business freshman year. They give you $3,000 and you have to come in every Friday and give a pitch on how the money's doing and what you're doing. And you have to go sell the product and and create and share profitability. And
that's actually really cool.
Really cool, right?
They give every student $3,000 to like go do something.
Go through a whole process of like inventing it. And then you have to pitch. It starts with like the whole, it's like 30, no, you have 60 classmates and it ends up being only 2 projects that win, but you have to pitch in front of the class and people have to, you all pitch and then everyone votes on whose idea is the best and it keeps going down and down and down. And so eventually your idea, if it wins, ends up with half the class and then you vote on a C-suite, you have a CEO, a CFO, a CMO.
Way.
Yeah. And then you have to pitch the university why your profitability, your accounting, all of this of what you'll be able to make happen.
Oh my God.
And if you get approval, you'll get the money. Okay. And then you have to then meet with your C-suite and with your team and you have to create a sales team and then you have to go sell the product.
No freaking
and all of this, right? So that's freshman year.
What?
Yeah.
That's actually really cool. So way too expensive, $250K. Way too expensive. But
really cool. And I will tell you this, Babson is mostly international. So it's a lot of
like people who aren't U.S.
Are not U.S. So it's a lot of people who have family businesses that send their kids there to learn, to come
back. All over the place.
All over the country. Singapore.
Is there like a focus from maybe a certain place like England or? Okay.
No, a lot
just
of
kind of all over.
All over the place. My average class size was about 30 students. And I remember in one class, my calculus class, he went through and asked where we were all from and we had 22 countries represented.
Whoa. Yeah, very little overlap.
Yeah. Then. And then in your second semester, you literally consult for a Fortune 500 company. So you have to consult. I consulted for Zildjian, which is a drum and like they make not drums, the thing on the drum set. The drum
head
ding!
Or the Oh, the dinger, the one that's like
whatever that thing
the disc,
is. Yeah,
the
metal disc.
Yeah, we're retarded.
So
I don't know what
I literally
that
had to
is
tour
called.
their facility, and then we had to find a problem in their business, and we had to do operations, accounting, finances, and then we had to pitch back to them they came in
like
and then usually they'll implement what we come up with.
That's
cool. 80% of our grade for the semester. So it's a really wild.
That's a really amazing school. Like I would send my daughter there.
Yeah, it was a great school.
That's amazing.
So I personally made that decision because I knew I wanted entrepreneurship. I knew I got so excited about the courses there, and I knew it was the number one school in the world for ROI.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't regret my college education, but the average person, it should not. That's ridiculous. Expensive. It's very expensive.
That's ridiculous.
It's very expensive. But the average person, they are.
That's not the. They don't go to school like that.
No.
Yeah. Like I did like 4 years of school, but I bounced around because I just like 3 different colleges. I did like Corbin University in Oregon, which was a private Christian school because I was doing the pastor stuff. Mm-hmm. And I did that for a year, and it was super expensive because it's private. And then I did OIT, which is Oregon Institute of Technology. And then I was like, I'm going to do communications. And then I did that. And I ended up, I think I did get a general associates, which is like for 2 years, but I did 4 years because I just bounced around and wasn't clear on what I wanted to do. And I think that's really common. Or you have people who don't have a clear idea of what they want to do.
We need gap years again. We need gap years to come back because.
What's that? Are you saying like after high school?
After high school, it's a very common thing in Europe, but it's getting less and less. But it should be. People are sending their kids to college to figure out what they want to do, and that is the most lunatic thing ever. Crazy. Let's even say it's $30,000. For the semester, for the year. Pay $30,000 to figure out what you want to do because that's just the logical next step.
Therapist.
Goddamn. Go travel.
Or travel.
Go get a job and figure out how much you don't like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's so true. Like go work at Taco Bell. I guarantee you if you work at Taco Bell for 2 years or even a year, 6 months, you will learn more about yourself than college.
It's such a pipeline. It's such a pipeline. And again, how much does it strap the average American to be settled with debt? Doesn't that make it easier for us to be controlled, for us to get a job? It puts us in a funnel. People end up with so much debt with interest rates they can't afford that they have to get a job. They don't even have the option of entrepreneurship because they can't afford just the debt that they took on.
And you can't take a risk with a business if you have all this debt. You need
100%.
Yeah, it really locks you in.
It's a crazy route that we are on with that, but I think it's changing for the better. I think that people are realizing, and I think that universities are realizing they have to figure it out too. What are you
people
actually
are becoming
offering?
less tolerant.
They are.
And I think the upcoming generations is one benefit, I think, of their awareness of all the world's problems 100%. Is that they're not going to play that game. They know it's bullshit. It's all over the place.
The millennials
we were the ones that took the brunt of that because we were that generation that grew up with all the traditional things, but then high school years, all of a sudden the world. iPhones, all this stuff starts coming out.
Yep.
And do you remember how old you were? I remember the iPod Touch, the first ever. And I remember I was on my soccer team, super vivid memory because I was so mind blown because they had this iPod Touch. I don't even think I had a cell phone. I was probably 14 or 15.
Yeah.
And this dude had an iPod Touch, first version or something. And he turned it sideways and the screen turned. And it was magic. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
iPhone
and then I literally went home and said, I need an iPod Touch, Mom and Dad. This thing's crazy.
It's so cool. I remember when I had a BlackBerry. I was like,
I did too for a little while because it was my dad's hand-me-down.
Because now it's such a business thing, just all these 14-year-olds with Blackberries. It's such a funny thing. Because
all the parents had them, and then they gave them to the kids.
And it had the full keyboard. It was one of the first ones to have the full keyboard.
Yeah, it was a fat
and
little phone.
The QWERTY board. Oh my goodness! But no, I think that the millennial generation got screwed because
we totally did.
Basically, the generation. The boomer and Gen, I think they're X before us, they had the traditional route, but they still got the benefit of the they still got jobs that made sense. They were able to buy homes.
They went into adulthood. Things didn't really adjust.
Change. Yeah. So they all trained us to do what they did. Then when we graduated, we were in a world that no longer cared that we did any of those things.
Yeah.
So now the generation
we weren't
below
trained
us,
though to deal with that world and to deal with the debt and the fact that we don't like our jobs
and the fact that we can't afford homes and
this
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that the internet is now actually where money is being made. And even I had a lot of marketing classes at Babson, and Babson again, one of the top schools, and I'm like this. By the time I graduated, nothing was applicable. I was like, this is completely unapplicable.
It's totally.
It, like, nobody's running print ads. Like, that's not it. Like, they're hiring Alex Earle.
Nobody's like,
you know what I mean? Like, and so,
man, that's true.
But then I look at my brother, and like, actually my brother dropped out of college. He's would have graduated this year because
he's
he dropped
20.
out.
So is he, what generation's he? Because he's 23. God, we're old. We're getting old. I know. Yeah.
So we're at the bottom of the millennials, and he's at the top of the Gen Z.
Okay. Yeah. Because you would have been, you were born like 1993.
And I think it ends in 94.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We were at the end of it, and he's at the other side.
And he was born 2000.
Okay. What's his perspective of the world? Would you say it's different? Because that's a decent gap.
I mean, it is very interesting to be raised. Me and my brother are so funny. So because there was a huge gap in raising us, right? So I went into college when he went into 4th grade.
Whoa.
That is a big gap.
That's
8
wild.
Is
he the youngest in your family?
Yes.
Okay.
But the other big difference, so one, it's the generational gap. But two, my parents got into Isagenix.
Okay.
When I went into college and when he went into middle school.
Okay.
And so even though they were serial entrepreneurs, they were very successful. They became extraordinarily successful, and also the time freedom that comes from network marketing with Isagenix. And so I always joke that like our childhoods were very different from, like, we were raised in different families, because like by the time he was being raised, they had a second house on the Cape. They, were taking their travels were to Europe.
They were already, they figured it out by then.
My summers were doing laundry at our house. Like I was going to Florida for vacation, very privileged still, but like not at the level my brother was. Like my brother grew up boating, like, you know what I mean? So like I was definitely privileged for sure, but it's just a different level of privilege.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because our viewpoints on the world can be very, very different. Because
so
like I grew up going to public school, he went to private high school.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So
it's like a Catholic private high school. And like I went to public school. Like there was a girl pregnant in 8th grade. Like I'm not even kidding. So like
for
it's
sure.
Like we're very similar because we do have very similar standpoints. We still grew up in the same area with the same parents.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's from a different generation and having communication with him, sometimes I'm like, what are you even saying? Like his language, the terms, he's like, cap.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, and now I know, so I'm like, well, what the, I'm like, a baseball cap?
But like, yeah, when I first, and that's when you know you're old, because
yes, when you are no longer the mainstream language, I'm like,
I have a buddy who says bet.
Yes.
And I always have to think like, that means like, it means like yes or okay, I think, or whatever.
And
like
cap
that,
means
cap means lying, right?
Yeah.
Because no cap.
No cap is like not laughing. It's like no cap. God. And I'm like, no cappuccino, like.
Yeah. When I heard no cap, and it makes me, and it makes, when I first hear it, I'm like, I'm over it now. I sort of. Mm-hmm. But like, it makes me kind of angry too. I'm like, you guys are idiots. And then I'm like.
But that was us.
But that makes me old if I think. Because the old people are the ones that are like, young kids are so stupid these days. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm becoming that.
It's so hard. I mean, turning 30 is a wild experience.
It's wild.
Are starting to like turn
you're done
over.
with your 20s.
You're done with your 20s.
You're moving into your,
and I don't like it.
And I don't feel okay, I'm not going to say I don't feel any smarter. I would say I don't feel as smart as I thought my parents were in their 30s.
Yeah.
When I was looking at them from a kid's perspective.
Yes.
Because you think like, oh, once you're in your 30s, you figure it out.
You feel like people have it all together. Yeah. I remember being like that too. But here's the big difference when I turned 30.
All right.
This is a big one.
Okay.
But it's not going to relate to you because it's a female thing.
Okay.
So for all the female listeners, I think this will really resonate. When I turned 30, literally the morning after, I woke up with such a sigh of relief. Like I finally had my own life back, and I did not expect that. But what I realized was every year leading up to 30, there is a pre-described life built in that you either succeed or don't succeed as a 20-something female. And that is, did you make the career happen before kids? Were you able to snag the guy, get engaged, get married, and have a baby?
Yep.
Or at least be on trajectory to have a baby. Oh, yeah, and buy a house.
Yeah.
And I remember, even though I didn't want that path, feeling like I was always being, like there was eyes on me,
right?
To like do it. And so people were always like waiting to see, like even up in like, oh, are you guys getting engaged? Like when's the engagement coming? When's the wedding coming? And the pressure also for me, like as an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh my goodness, once I have kids, I feel like I'm not going to be able to build my business. Like for men, careers don't stop with children, but for women, whether I like it or not, it's different.
It's hormonal.
You know what I mean? It's hormonal.
It affects women in a different way. Yeah,
completely. And so I turned 30 and it was almost like, oh, I didn't do it. Great. Now my life is mine.
Now I can move on.
Now my life is mine.
I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, it's the deadline passed. And no one's going to be questioning it. They're going to move on to the next 24-year-old who they're going to harass and see if they can do it on time.
I'm not
and then maybe they'll whisper about, oh my God, have you seen, Chelsea's not married yet, Chelsea's not engaged yet, or whatever, and who cares? But it was like I never even wanted it. I want to get married. I want to have babies, all that stuff. I just didn't want it on that timeline.
But you don't want it on the other people's timeline.
But it was the pressure, and it was like I woke up at 30 and I was like, oh my God, is this what it feels like to be a man? I was like,
that's amazing.
I can do whatever I want. Whatever I want.
Hell yeah.
And I don't care. It's like, because it's my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, even though I knew it was my life, it always felt like I was measuring up to something. Mm-hmm. And I was always falling short, even though I'm super successful in my career. Right. That's not what we measure women by.
That's right. And I think there's a lot of pressure. Like, I definitely have talked to my wife about it and other female friends. And yeah, there's definitely a pressure, I think, far more than on guys to have babies and if a woman, if she doesn't have, it's weird, right? Because if a guy, I know multiple men who are past the 30s and don't have wives, or even in their 20s, they don't have.
And then they're George Clooney.
Wives. They don't have.
It's even more attractive.
It's
like, oh, no one snagged them.
Yeah, age like fine wine, right? They just nobody gives a shit. But then if it's a woman, it's like, oh, she's kind of I guess she's I guess it's over for her.
Old hag.
So sad.
Didn't make it. It is. And I think it's changing.
I think it's changing.
But again, I think it's our generation that's going to change it. I think it's the millennials. So I think the next generation is going to benefit from us, and we're still going to be that cusp of we're breaking the glass ceiling for people.
Yeah, we broke the water, and now you should be able to just keep up the momentum. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also get rid of the idiot politicians if they can do that. That's something we did not achieve. I don't know what happened.
But I feel like we still have time because politicians are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and we haven't gotten there yet. So we still have time to fix that.
Yeah, we do. And we need to stop having people that are so old.
I think we need to stop having political parties, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, it's just insane that you have to pick two. You're either this or you're that. I'm like, well, they both suck. So can we figure something else out?
It's like we're trying to have a civil war. What are we doing?
I know.
It's the stupidest. It's like red and blue choose a side.
Against each other.
It's so any logic you apply to that, it's so stupid. And we have these guys. I mean, Biden. I don't like Trump. I don't like Biden. I think any reasonable
person.
I really believe this. Yeah, anyone who has a brain between their ears and really thinks with it on their own. Yeah, you do not like either of them. How could you? It's impossible. You can't, because Biden. Maybe he's a decent person, but he is way too old and he can't think straight. That's 100%. Just, and I feel bad for the guy. He's like a grandpa, go.
I know.
Somebody take care of him.
It's just not good. It's just not good.
And Trump's a crazy person, right? Yeah, so, I mean, it's just a wild.
It's not good.
And how's this happening?
So bad. Yeah. And, actually, so Joe Rogan had a comedy show, and he does a great job of pointing out the obvious without insulting either side, which I think is really cool. Yeah. Not in his podcast, but on his comedy show. On his podcast, he insults people. But he made a comment, and he was like, having a president is an impossible job. We're gonna have a popularity contest and then be like, you run all the people.
Yeah, that's so true.
It doesn't make any sense. But what also is really wild is understanding how big America is. And Europe is split up into many different countries, and they're not even Europe isn't even the size of America. And so one of the things I don't think we understand, again, I got my degree in economics inside of business, so not politically, but I understand supply, demand, and all that kind of stuff.
Of course.
But inside of America, we have our own basically countries, like the South, the West, the East, the Midwest. They are different places and they think differently.
So different.
And I've traveled a lot. And one of those things that has really opened my mind is when you go to other places, you understand why they think how they think. Mm-hmm. And people who have never been to other places cannot understand
echo chamber,
that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to have laws that cross all of them.
They govern all of
it. Because someone who's a farmer in Texas isn't going to have the same opinion as me growing up in Boston in a liberal city. It's just different. It's so true. And we need different laws, so it's hard.
That's something I've thought about a lot now that we live in Europe, because you just see, because Portugal, for instance, it's smaller than Oregon. Mm-hmm. And it's a country.
Yes.
Right?
With its own government.
That's right. Its own government that's totally separate from Italy and Spain and all these other places.
It makes so much
But in the US, we try to it's
group that all together.
Big of a piece of land. Mm-hmm. We can't all get along. That's impossible. It's too big.
It keeps us really strapped in the sense that we can't choose to just go to another, because if you were in Europe, like you could be like, okay, like let me just go to Spain if it's like a better fit for me and I'm still not that far away from my family. But like it's all governed the same. Like we would literally have to cross the seas like you did with your wife
to go
and have a different experience.
That's right.
That's a question me and my boyfriend are asking ourselves right now. Like I really dislike the work-life balance that I have in America. And I don't like the food system.
The food,
I struggle with it so much.
You're preaching the choir. Yeah. We were the same. We were like, we hate that we drive everywhere. There's cities are not like this. We'll walk at 1 a.m. at night.
Yeah. And it's safe.
So safe.
I was living in Monaco for 2 months.
Michaela will go on her own on the metro.
Yes.
In the middle of the night.
I would walk home at like 3 a.m.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I'm good. At first I was nervous. Like I was scared. And then someone was like, they have more cameras than any other country in the world. That's actually a fact, though. They have cameras everywhere.
Singapore's like that, too.
Yeah. And I'm like, good. Because there's no crime.
That's right. You know Nobody's going to kill anybody because it's like,
that's what the government should be doing. I'm like, can we just work on that and like not the other cameras. Stuff?
So, yeah. It's so funny. Yeah. There's a lot of problems in the world, but
there's a lot, but that's another podcast for another day.
So network marketing, if somebody listen to this and they're interested in getting started, what would you say to them?
I would say that the most important thing when you get started in network marketing is to choose your compensation plan and to choose your mentor.
Okay.
The products come next. So when you are making this decision, it's important to really understand how the compensation plans work, to read them and vet them. But before even the compensation plan, it really does come down to mentors, because I have seen people with compensation plans that I'm like, I don't know how you do that, make a lot of money with the right mentorship. And I've seen people with great compensation plans have the wrong mentorship and still not be able to make good money, because you really, it's a whole new beast and you need someone to explain it to you and to support you. And it is the whole point of getting involved in network marketing is you're buying into a team's systems and strategies and tools, because it's a franchise model.
Right.
So I would say go vet out some people that are in companies that you align with, that you see that they are really doing the work for their teams, and figure out what mentor makes sense for you. And if that mentor is aligned with a compensation plan that makes sense to you.
Okay.
And then get started there.
What are are there any that you would like a few you would say you could check these ones out, for example? They don't necessarily have to work with these ones. Like, would Isagenix be one?
Isagenix would definitely be one that I would say check it out. Because I would say look at the companies with binary compensation plans. Mentorship wise, that's something you're going to have to vet for yourself based on like asking the right questions. Like, have they actually had success? What are their systems in place? Are they coaching you? Are they going to do 3-way calls with you? Like how much are they going to support you?
And people with recurring revenue is ideal. If you can find someone who has a recurring products, people order it every month. Yes, you want a recurring
product. Do not join a company.
It's not like I buy pants and I need those pants for the next 2 years.
And don't choose a company that makes you hold inventory that's outdated.
Yeah, that would suck.
So they're like LuLaRoe made you hold inventory. There's
that's right. Did you have to buy like 5,000? I remember
they
were
like the true franchising model where they were like, you're starting a company.
You're a store.
Yeah. So choose a company that's drop shipped so that you're never holding inventory. Choose a company, I would say, that is not so old that they are probably not focused on bringing in new customers. You want somebody that's going to be past their 10-year mark, because you don't want to have an if come maybe when you're building your future, but probably before their 40-year mark. And maybe even the 30-year mark. The 20-year mark is a sweet spot. I'm very lucky that I was started with Isagenix when they were 11 or 12, and now we're 20. And you're going to want a binary. So you're going to want to choose a company that has a binary compensation plan. Isagenix has that. Q Science has that. Shakeology has that.
Perfect.
So something like that.
Shakeology is a big one too.
It is. That one, you have to understand the products too. So like they're going to be more fitness oriented. Do you want to host fitness events?
But if you don't want to do fitness, then like,
probably
not
for you. Right. So
do you have any way people can work with you if they want to be like, do you have like program or something?
So from a network marketing standpoint, they can just hit me up on Instagram.
Just like DM you?
Yep. The Chelsea Lauren. You can send me a DM and then I can put you through, like, we'll have a meeting where I basically vet if you're the right fit for the team and if I'm the right fit for you. From a coaching standpoint, I am going to be opening up some coaching opportunities, but probably not in the next 6 months. So I'm not even going to talk about that.
We'll
but in the future,
just DM you on Instagram if they're interested in learning more, and follow you on Instagram. And it was at the Chelsea Lauren. Lauren, Lauren. Correct. Okay, great. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep.